My name is Wes Rodriguez, and this is the Sink or Swim podcast. Okay, people, let's get right into it. I have been catching up on my television with the classic MacGyver, and I never noticed. I think he's Canadian. I'm catching back up again. I'm only a couple episodes in. But it's surprising to me how crafty that Canuck is. Canada always seems to entertain me. I'm fascinated by that country because they seem to fly under the radar completely, and they have such a reputation for being such gentle and sweet and loving people. And their crime rate has never been an issue. And their culture is rooted in family values and like pride, local pride in their country and stuff. And I'm just intrigued by the fact that they're in such close proximity to the United States that how is it that we haven't corrupted them at all? It's like they're the innocent younger brother of America that seems to learn from all the mistakes that America's making and just gets all the love and appreciation from the world, Mother Earth. And we just can't figure that out. And they have such awkward things, like their police is on horseback, and they're proud of that. And they're not going to be affected by the modern civilization. They're gonna keep that way. And meanwhile, the American police force is riding the new BMW, and some of the new precincts have Harley Davidsons under the motorcycles. And things like, I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with ketchup chips, but I believe the name brand potato chip Lay's makes a version of potato chips that has like ketchup flavor to it. It tastes like vinegar kind of, but it's super popular in Canada, but you can't get that in the US. And they're not that much different from the US. I guess they have an influence of France in their country, but they're going to do things their way, and they're not going to be corrupted by Americans. And in fact, just getting into the country is a giant headache from what I hear. I hear horror stories of people getting stuck filing all kinds of paperwork just to do business there or to visit even. And if you flash an American driver's license, Mexico will take you in gladly, and hope you'll take up residency. But when it comes to Canada, they want you to state your business, be explicitly detailed on what you're going to do here and when you're going to leave. So that always boggles my mind. But anyway, I never realized that MacGyver was Canadian, and I think that adds to his legendary folklore and mystery. I loved MacGyver as a kid growing up. There wasn't too many television shows that I could look forward to. And whenever I visited my grandma, I believe it was on Sundays, Saturdays or Sundays when it aired, we would beg my mom to have the television on just in case dinner was running through the television show and we could watch it. My mom had strict rules. When you sit down at the table, it's a family entity. You do not let things like video games or television interfere. This is when we socialize and pay tribute to the family organism. So it was a rare treat that we were able to have shows like MacGyver in our grasp to be able to watch. I think I mentioned before, my mom didn't even like us watching The Simpsons because of the adult humor attached to it. So when it came to TV, I thoroughly enjoyed that television show. And I'm reliving my childhood, and I'm able to watch that on Netflix. I can't tell you guys how much I am in love with my Netflix. It knows me. It loves me. It sends me emails when new seasons of shows come up that I haven't even requested. Just tells me, yeah, Bones, the new season is up. Come and check it out. I love you. I embrace you, Wes. I am Netflix, and you are my soul partner. It's nice having that kind of intimacy in your life when there's no one at home waiting for you when you get there. Anyways, there was an interesting story I learned about while listening to I think it was Joe Rogan and Greg Fitzsimmons, that podcast. And if you guys haven't tuned into Joe Rogan, he has a podcast that pretty much has no format. They just start talking, and wherever the conversation organically evolves, that's where it goes. And he's been known to go up to like 3 hours of recording. And he was talking about a pregnancy without conception. Or rather, well, this is the story reported by ABC News. A strange tale of oral sex, a knife fight, and the most unlikely of pregnancies recently brought to light by the blogosphere has doctors touting the triumphant persistence of sperm. In 1988, a 15-year-old girl living in the small southern African nation of Lesotho came to local doctors with all the symptoms of a woman in labor. But the doctors were quickly puzzled because upon examination, she didn't have a vagina. It's interesting. Inspection of the vulva showed no vagina, only a shallow skin dimple. So doctors delivered a healthy baby boy via cesarean. The authors wrote in a case report published in the British Journal of Obstetrics and Gynecology, which just begs to question the fact that how was she urinating if she had no vagina? That's very interesting. And how did she get pregnant if she has no vagina? So, her birth defect, called Mullerian agenesis or Mayer-Rokitansky-Kuster-Hauser syndrome, didn't necessarily surprise doctors, but her pregnancy did. Even the 15-year-old girl could not believe she was pregnant. Yet by looking at the records, the hospital staff realized the young woman was in the hospital 278 days earlier with a knife wound to her stomach. The average pregnancy lasts 280 days. After interviews, they gathered that just before she was stabbed in the abdomen, she had practiced fellatio with her new boyfriend and was caught in the act by her former lover. The fight with knives ensued. The girl arrived at the hospital with an empty stomach, and therefore with little stomach acid around, and doctors found 2 holes from a stab wound that opened her stomach up to her abdominal cavity. The case report said doctors washed her stomach out with a salt solution and stitched her up. A plausible explanation for this pregnancy is that spermatozoa gained access to the reproductive organ via the injured gastrointestinal tract, the authors wrote. Infertility experts note the story, which resurfaced on a Discovery magazine blog, is not only a testament to Murphy's Law, but one to arguably nature's most impressive swimmer's sperm. How could sperm survive those conditions? Here's an unbelievable set of coincidences, said Dr. Richard Paulson, head of the University of Southern California fertility program in the Los Angeles area. But it's totally plausible. Although doctors know that sperm needs a low acid, high pH environment to survive and would likely die eventually in the low pH of stomach acid, doctors also said that the sperm comes in a protective fluid, ejaculate, a nourishing medium meant to protect the sperm. Besides, out of hundreds of millions of sperm, if you knock out 90% of them, you're still going to have tens of millions of sperm, said Dr. Peter Schlegel. Paulson agreed. Sperm are pretty hardy, said Paulson, who pointed out that sperm must make it out of the acidic environment of the vagina before reaching more friendly territory at the cervix and in the uterus. Once in the abdominal wall, Paulson estimated that the sperm could survive for days. It's a long way from the stomach into the lower abdomen. It's a heck of a trip, but they made it, said Paulson. You just need sperm somewhere in the area of an egg. Paulson said in the early days of fertility treatments in the 1980s, doctors injected sperm in the lower abdomen, hoping for coincidental encounter with an egg. The procedure, called DIPI, or direct interparietal insemination, has largely been replaced by more effective methods. Schlegel pointed out, although fertilization typically takes place in the fallopian tubes, doctors know that sperm can normally swim up and out of the reproductive organs into the abdominal cavity. The sperm are naturally there at times, and eggs are naturally there, said Schlegel. Eggs are released from the ovary, and they sort of dance around before they get taken up by the fallopian tube. So it seems, Schlegel concluded, that the sperm could also be taken up by the fallopian tube, as could a fertilized egg. But some doctors are still suspicious of at least bewildered by the tale. The girl's birth defect is well known, and by age 15, doctors say most girls would have been doubling over in pain with an abdominal filled with menstrual fluid that cannot escape. The menstrual fluid of several periods would make it even more unlikely for a pregnancy to occur. She'd have pain all the time and would have a stomach full of blood all the time and would have to be operated on, or she would eventually die. Dr. Howard A. Zakur, a reproductive endocrinologist at Johns Hopkins, also had doubts. The case report here suffers from the fact that an individual with a completely obstructed vaginal outlet would have been expected to have blood accumulation in the vagina and or uterus, he wrote in an email. The authors of the report guessed a pregnancy could only be possible if the girl had ovulated once or at most twice before her pregnancy. Whatever the story of the woman and her now grown son, Silber said it could send a message to ordinary couples planning pregnancy. Why doubt the longevity of sperm? So there you go, folks. Pregnant by stabbing. Immaculate conception. Well, it doesn't measure up to the most famous Immaculate Conception in the history of the world, but it comes pretty close, I'd say. Well, those are the kinds of conversations that come up when in the midst of Joe Rogan. Psychedelic drugs, fitness, ultimate fighting, comedy, and pretty much everything is up for grabs when you're in the midst of Joe Rogan and his death. What is this? Death Squad. That's his camp. That's what his fans have called themselves, and all his cohorts that come on the show. So, if you don't believe me, folks, look it up. It's true. I thought that was a fascinating story I wanted to share with y'all. And let's see, what else is there? Well, Hearing that story brought upon my brain the strange concept of genitalia defects on humans when they're born and how that affects them in their lives. Now, a lot of people don't agree with the concepts, but I am under the belief that people are born in the wrong bodies and they live uncomfortable lives and have struggled maturing in this world feeling that they are the wrong sex that their body is depicting. And I guess I can pose a question out there, and hopefully you guys can give me feedback. If you were forced at gunpoint to have relations with the opposite sex, well, I guess it wouldn't be the opposite sex. Let's say it was a man with a vagina and a woman with a penis. Just the parts were swapped at birth, but their body matured into the unlikely scenario. What would you choose? Which scenario would be comfortable to you? If it was me, I would try to manipulate the option of masturbating to watching them both have sex with each other. That would be my interest. I think that would be fascinating. But what about you? Men and women, I guess it wouldn't matter if you're a man or a woman. The scenario applies to both. Would you have stipulations? Would you have your life taken? What would you do in that scenario? Give me your feedback. Go ahead and leave an email or send a message via Facebook. The addresses are SOS space WITHWAM on Facebook, and the email is SOSWITHWAM@yahoo.com. And tell me what you think. And I think that will wrap up this show. We're going to start making it nice and thin and slim, so we'll just get to the juicy parts of the show and not have to drag it on and give you guys interesting content. And yet I can still get practice doing this because I am still an amateur. And I probably will be for a while, but I'm still going to stick to this. Anyhow, hope you guys are preparing and enjoying what is soon to be the Christmas holiday vacation coming up, and I still don't know what I'm gonna do yet. Probably do some cooking. I don't know if I'm gonna visit with family yet, but what are you guys doing? How's your holiday gonna go? Whatever you guys are doing, I wish you a fantastic and festive holiday season. And with that, I will sign it off. My name is Wes Rodriguez, and for Ambrosio and Nigo Montoyo, thank you for tuning in to the Sink or Swim podcast. What's your dream?